Christopher Nolan, has made 12 films. Different stories, different worlds, different characters, different genres. But if you watch them all carefully, something strange becomes clear. They are all asking the same question. Not the same plot, not the same setting, not the same character, the same question. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it across every film he has ever made. Can you trust yourself? Think about Leonard Shelby in Memento, a man with no short-term memory, forced to navigate the world using notes and tattoos on his own body. He cannot trust his perception of what happened. He cannot trust his own past. He cannot trust the story he tells himself about who he is and what he has done. Think about Robert Angier in The Prestige, a man so consumed by obsession that he loses everything that made him worth knowing, his values, his relationships, his humanity. He cannot trust what his ambition has turned him into. Think about Cobb in Inception, a man haunted by guilt about his dead wife, trapped between dream and reality, unable to trust whether the world he inhabits is real or a projection of his own grief. Think about Cooper in Interstellar, a man separated from his daughter by the one thing that cannot be negotiated with or outrun: time. He cannot trust that the universe will give him back what the journey cost. Think about Oppenheimer, a man who used his genius to build something that changed history forever and spent the rest of his life questioning whether the version of himself that made that decision was the same man who had to live with it. And now think about Odysseus in The Odyssey, a man who spent 10 years at war becoming someone he did not recognize, who was then offered paradise, offered immortality, offered everything most people spend their lives chasing, and said no, because he needed to find his way back to the version of himself that existed before all of it. The question he is asking is the same one Leonard asked, the same one Cobb asked, the same one Oppenheimer asked: who am I really? And can I trust that person? Because here is what makes Nolan different from almost any other filmmaker working today. He is not interested in heroes who are certain. He is interested in men who are brilliant, capable, powerful, and fundamentally uncertain about themselves underneath all of it. Psychologists call this identity instability, the experience of a self that feels real and coherent on the surface, but harbors deep uncertainty underneath about whether that self can be trusted, whether the memories that define it are accurate, whether the choices that shaped it were made by someone who should be allowed to keep calling himself a good man. Nolan described time as the most cinematic of subjects, and he is right about that. But the reason he keeps returning to it is not purely cinematic, it is psychological. Because time, in every Nolan film, is the thing that threatens identity. If your memory cannot be trusted, who were you? If time can move in both directions, are your choices permanent? If you did something irreversible 20 years ago, are you still the person who did it? These are not questions about physics or narrative structure. They are the questions of someone who cannot stop asking whether the self is stable. And what makes Nolan's films hit so hard is not the spectacle. It is not the IMAX scale or the practical effects or the sound design. It is that underneath every impossible situation his characters face, there is a very simple, very human terror. The terror of not being able to trust your own version of yourself. And maybe that is why his films feel like more than entertainment, because most people watching them are quietly carrying the same question, not about time inversion or quantum physics or ancient Greek mythology, just the quieter version. Am I really who I think I am, and can I trust what I've become? Nolan has been making the same film for 25 years because that question does not go away, and neither does the need to keep asking it.